back. Uh, today is June 21st, 2024. We're having our 2024 Watermelon Thump Queen Candidate Show here live at Mom's Front Porch in downtown Luling, Texas. Eric Lugo here with the Luling Eagle Sports Broadcast, bringing you interviews all day long. And I had a little technical issue with my Zoom, but luckily one of my guests here, Rodney Rodriguez with Texas Sports Unfiltered, was able to get this. He's going to record it, and we're going to see if we can get it on YouTube and wherever else later on. So, Rodney, appreciate you doing that for me in the pinch. I don't know what's going on my end, but the first interviews went fine, but this one just didn't seem to want to work. So, and we also have on with us Stu Myrick. Stu is also from Texas Sports Unfiltered, and they're both alumni of the Horn. Of course, the Horn dissolved about a year ago this time. So, I'm glad to have them on. So, guys, welcome to LESB. How y'all doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, sure. And appreciate y'all doing it. Stu, it's my first time to meet you. I've heard so much about you. Rodney's talked a lot about you. A lot of the hosts at the Horn talked a lot about you, and you do so much, or you did so much, when you were there. Super Bowls and all the things you did, and of course all the wrestling stuff you did with your Sports Guys Talking Wrestling channel. So appreciate like I said, you taking time out. And me as a big wrestling fan, a lifelong wrestling fan, as Rodney well knows now, he's known me long enough. He knows how big a wrestling fan I am. And of course he is too. I'm sure, you've known him quite a while too. So, I definitely had to have you on, talk a little wrestling. I just love my wrestling. I got to talk it just anytime I can with whoever I can. I know some folks, don't really think a lot of it, but, of course, us three, I think we're in the minority where that goes. So, well, I guess my first question for you, Stu, would be, where did your love of wrestling come from? With me, my grandma got me into it when I was like about 8 years old. And of course, Ric Flair and all those guys back in the 80s and such. And then came Hulk Hogan and all the folks in the then WWF. And then, from then on, it just kept on. And I've just been a wrestling fan ever since. So kind of where did your love of the wrestling start up?
Well, it started as a kid. I was, Saturday morning, you're watching the cartoons, and then all of a sudden, here comes Mid-South Wrestling out of the boys club in Shreveport, and for some reason, that just captivated me. Back in the, and that was back in the days, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. It was a heel, as
right?
The Rat Pack with Ted DiBiase, and then you saw the rise of the Junkyard Dog, the great Junkyard Dog, and then ended up and then found World Class Championship Wrestling, the Von Erichs, and the Freeburgers, and all that good stuff. And I've watched it ever since, and I started Sports Guys Talking Wrestling back in 2016. It was just an excuse to get together with a couple guys and talk wrestling. We ended up
exactly
being a part of the Horn, and ended up being on the Horn, and I've done it's given me opportunity to go to WrestleManias and other different events, and it's a lot of fun. I've just always enjoyed it, and even today,
sure. I still like I said, the three of us, I think, can all agree on that. I know I've always enjoyed it. Of course, me now being a grown up, I understand a little more, the scripted side of it and all that, how all that works. And then, of course, I mentioned to you, Logan Pettis was supposed to be on and couldn't make it, but, he does a lot of stuff for River City Wrestling. And so, learn like all the terminology, work, shoot, and all those kinds of things that I didn't know, when I was little. It was just something that, kind of like you said, watching the Von Erichs and the Freebirds and all those back then is like, well, it's like, hey, it's just a wrestling match. We just like to see people beat each other up. Even though, it wasn't, real, like maybe like with
right. And the crazy thing is, since starting the show, I've had the chance to meet a lot of those legends that I watched as a kid, and of course the stars of today, and I've gotten to work with several of them. I do So I am on the commentary team for Inspire After Death, great wrestling promotion here in Austin. And I'm also the lead commentator. You want to say it? I'm the voice for the Rhodes Wrestling Academy, led by the legendary natural Dustin Rhodes.
Right.
And I get to work with him.
And well, since you brought that up, is Cody Rhodes involved in any way in that? I mean, I know he's Dustin's brother, of course.
Cody has his own school. He has the Nightmare Factory in Georgia.
Sure.
Yeah, in addition to his duties with WWE, he has the Nightmare Factory in Georgia. So he does, it's kind of the same thing. They run 12-week camps.
Yes.
And they will do what they call student showcase. So they'll take all the students, put them in matches, record it for YouTube. And Dustin does the same thing. And so that's what I do. So yeah, it's similar, and Cody and Dustin obviously talk, they're brothers, so they talk.
Right.
And I've known Cody for quite some time. I had him on my show, countless times back when he was still doing, Ring of Honor or TNA or on the independent scene. So yeah, so it's similar. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And before we get too far down the road, I did have a question I had thought of when you were mentioning about those accounts. Talk about your channel. Of course, you have a Sports Guy Talking Wrestling, but it's not just on the social media, but you also have YouTube presence. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. It's available as a podcast wherever it's on all major podcast providers. I try to put, we do have a YouTube channel. I'll put up shows, interviews, what have you. In fact, this week, I had Mike Sempervive from Wrestling Observer Live. He's a great friend. He comes on quite a bit, and so we recap Clash in the Castle and all the fallout from that. But yeah, Sports Guys Talking Wrestling wherever you get your podcast, and also check it out on YouTube.
And then let me ask you too, both of y'all, because I know I said Rodney's a big wrestling fan too. Who were y'all's favorite wrestlers? I mean, let me just say, not just take into account, from the past, like I just mentioned a little earlier, but like today's wrestlers. I mean, y'all have some favorites that y'all watch that y'all enjoy from today's, WWE and TNA, and there's so many out there now, and then AEW. So,
Rodney, go ahead. I'm trying to think.
I think my all-time favorite really is Ric Flair. It was one of those things to where kind of like what Stu was talking about there. I go back to the Southwest wrestling days from San Antonio with Joe Blanchard and all of that, and Mid-South, and of course World Class, and it was when World Class came around that I really started to figure out who Ric Flair was. And then, as you got to, I really think that one of the coolest things ever was when WTBS had Georgia Championship Wrestling in the, in the afternoons on the weekend. I mean, that was one of those things where you went out and you did whatever you did, and then 5:05 or whatever time it was, boom, and there's Gordon Soley. I really think that was some of the best stuff I ever saw. I love Scott Casey back in the day when I was a kid, when we'd go to the Coliseum and watch those guys. I think the Funks are amazing, with Terry and Dory Jr. and Dory. I think Dory's just recently passed. Did I see that right, Stu?
No, Dory's still
right.
No,
Dory's still around. Okay.
Terry passed. Terry passed.
Terry,
about a year or two ago.
Okay.
But Dory's still around. He was in fact, they just had on the NWA Power on the CW.
Wow.
He showed up, the former world heavyweight champion there. But yeah, Dory's still with us.
Yeah, but it really was for me. I mean, that's one of the things, like with broadcasting and announcing and all that. A lot of that really was right back from wrestling. I mean, with Gene Kelly and Bill Watts and Steve Stack and of course Bill Mercer, that was one of those things to where it really. I mean, I would try to imitate those guys just like I would the car racing guys, and that was, I had a really good Steve Stack impression, when I was a kid, and it was kind of a basis right there. But I don't watch it near as much as I used to. I mean, I'll catch a big show every now and then, but that's about the gist of it now. But now I will sit here and go back on YouTube and just watch hours and hours and hours of
You're like me. Not only YouTube, but also Facebook. I do that too.
Yep.
Matter of fact, I was doing that last night, and I would be on something with MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, of course. And I dozed off, and I woke up at like 5 something this morning, and it was still playing. And I don't know how long it was, but it was still playing. And like 4 hours later, I guess I'd fallen asleep. So just crazy, like you said, how all these things, they just kind of know, they know you're a big wrestling fan. They just kind of feed it to you. So,
yeah, that's
Stu, you got your answers?
Yeah, well, it's funny. So what Rodney was talking about, that's, like I said, I do commentary. Well, I've taken a little bit from the likes of, Jim Ross, Bill Mercer, Gordon Soley, Bob Caudle, who announced the Mid Atlantic all those years. Lance Russell, who broadcast Memphis. It was I've been blessed enough to interview Bill Mercer years ago when he came. He would come and do the Round Rock Express broadcast with Mike Capps, and I was up there early, so Bill was there, and I said, "Would you mind if we did an interview?" We did. Had a great interview. In fact, what surprised me, and I think Rodney, you saw this too. Our dear friend Craig Way, he was in Los Angeles, or he was up in Dallas. Then he went to the NBA Finals, and then on his way back, he and his wife stopped by and saw Mr. Mercer, who is 98 years old, still kicking. And
I heard him talking about that. Yeah,
I mean, Bill Mercer, not only was the voice of World Class Championship Wrestling, but he was the first radio voice of the Dallas Cowboys, the first radio voice for the Texas Rangers. He called the Ice Bowl for CBS Radio back in the day. He's one of those stalwarts. He's in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. I think he should be in every wrestling Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
So yeah, as far as wrestlers go, look, I mean, for me, it was always Dream. It was always Dusty. What he could do with the limited physical capabilities that he had was astounding. I would say today, you mentioned MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. I got to work with Max when he would wrestle at Inspire. He actually became a friend. In fact, it'll blow his gimmick, and I get it, but sometimes Dustin will get me backstage for AEW when they come to town, and when Max sees me, he will come up and give me a big old hug. And it's one of those things, just kind of, okay. So I love Max. I think he's on a level that very few can touch. I love Cody. I love Dustin. There's a lot of good ones. There's one, and I'll tell you, there's one that we see and inspire quite a bit. It's a young lady out of the Dallas area named Maya World. And there's something about her that she's one of those that you can see the talent is there. It's just a matter of she just got to get some more seasoning, but I think she could do something special. So she's really good. And that's one of the things, that's one of the great things about doing commentary for a company like Inspire. I get to see some of the best independent talent in Texas. And then we get, like, for instance, we had Danhausen a couple months ago come through. And it was a lot of fun. So, it's always good to see those folks, applying their craft and get to know them, at all the shows.
Yes, sir. And I could talk wrestling, and I knew when I asked y'all both to be on together, and I know you guys work a lot together at TSU. I was like, I think I could talk wrestling with y'all for about 5 or 6 hours and not get tired. Not about you guys, but I think I can do that. But I did want to ask, because I know you do other things besides wrestling. What do you have going on right now? What could you like? I know there were some fans. I know around here, even in Luling, that listened to the Horn when the Horn was on, and of course now it's no longer there. But I know you guys are doing, moved on to bigger, better things, and of course Rodney being a regular host there. And what about you, Stu? What is it that you have going on these days?
It's been primarily wrestling. Rodney's been kind enough to let me guest host on TSU, and I always enjoy that. Between all the Super Bowls, and I covered the Cowboys for about 6-7 years. Doing all the home games up there in Arlington, and Did the first 3 seasons of Austin FC. So, those are always such great memories. Like I said, been primarily the wrestling, but like I said, I do get to mix it up with sports, on TSU when Rodney calls and wants me to fill in. I'm happy to do it. It's there's a vast world out there, and it's always fun to talk about, like what are the Cowboys going to do with free agency because they haven't done squat. Things like that. We had, in fact, it was Rodney had me on the morning Scotty Scheffler got arrested at the Masters. And I got to talk about security at PGA events because I got to cover the Dell Technology Match Play for many, all the years they were here in Austin. And so, it could speak to what happens with that. So yeah, I try to mix it up when I can.
Yes, sir. And Rodney, well, first of all, talk a little bit about, your show, what you're doing, you and Adam Wagner, and then also, anything else you might have going on here in these days.
Yeah, Monday through Friday, 10 to 11 a.m. Is our show, Chaos Theory, and it's we cover it all, like Stu's talking about right there. I mean, it's been extremely a lot of NBA and NHL, which like NHL is newer to me. I mean, I would watch hockey, but now when you actually have to talk about it, you start watching things a little different. So there's all of that, and of course, Texas football, Texas sports. That's really the emphasis there with TSU, and there's always something going on. Just the move to the SEC. That's a lot of conversation happening right there. What's going to happen with David Pierce? I mean, the basketball teams. I mean, Vic Schaefer on the ladies' side, they're just doing great things. Volleyball's winning championships, and of course Sark and the football team. I mean, this is a great time to be covering Texas football. It's a very good time to be covering Texas football.
Yes, sir. So, and then also, I know you guys, like you just mentioned, concentrate on Texas football, but for me, being a Texas State Bobcat alumni, it's pretty exciting for us too. We coming off a bowl win this last year against the Rice Owls, and now looking with this expanded college football playoff coming up this season. They're talking about us maybe winning the Sun Belt Conference, and then if we win that conference, possibly being in the college football playoff, which I mean, a few years back, I could not even imagine that something like that would be possible.
Well, and I think a lot of that is, Eric, just kind of like what we're talking about with Sarkisian in Austin is there with GJ Kinney. When you put a guy in place like that has the buy-in from not only the kids in the program, but from the boosters and from the administrators. I mean, I was so proud when I saw, I guess, 3 or 4 weeks ago, that it's now UFCU Stadium. I mean,
yes,
it's always going to be Bobcat Stadium to us, but the fact that that's happening right there, that tells you the interest. And what's that going to do? That's going to lead to more. That's going to lead to more dollars. That's going to lead to more donors. That's going to lead to better facilities, which eventually is going to lead to better not better athletes, but the increase in athletes that are going to come. It's going to help you in NIL. So I think it's a very good time to be involved in Texas State athletics as well, because
yes, sir, for sure. Absolutely, it is. Yeah, I mean, and not just football, but all the sports. I mean, we had a highly successful year. We won this. It's called Big Bubas Cup, which is basically the I guess kind of the equivalent. I think the Big 12 had something like that. It's just basically you're the best team in your conference. You're awarded that trophy. You had the most successful athletic year across the board. So, Dr. Kelly Danfus over there. And then, of course, like you mentioned, the Brain Trust, Coach Kenny and also Don Coryell, the athletic director, I know they're pleased, and they're looking really forward to it. We're just really over the moon excited about this upcoming year. Yeah. So I'm going to let you guys go because I got to head on to these other interviews, but I sure appreciate you taking time. And Rodney, I appreciate you recording this for me so that I'll try to get it on our channel later on. But I wanted to ask you, Rodney, where did the dinner bell thing originate? Because I love that you do that on your show. And I love when you just get that dinner bell. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah. And that's just kind of what did that come about?
That actually is a total ripoff from Stu. You'll remember this name. That is a total ripoff from the Colonel Sammy Allred. when
Okay.
he and Bob Cole used to do that. I mean, Sammy would always ring the bell. He all right, mighty fine, or whatever they'd say. And the thing about it is, so the current version of the bell. I mean, look at this. So I had a car racer on from Pensacola, Florida, a couple of years ago, and I was ringing the bell or whatever because she was just throwing stuff out, man, and she was all infatuated. I sent her the bell. I pulled it off of it was glued to the desk, and I pulled it off and sent it to her, and she sent me this, and this is like clear coated with her race car color, and it happens to be orange. So she sent me this back, and so that things right there. But yeah, that's a rip off of somebody else. But I take it to the other level. It seems like
Yes, sir.
We all borrow from shows.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's one thing I've learned. I never really realized that, but it's like, yeah, kind of like you, Stu, talking earlier about the great commentators, and you emulate, and then Rodney was kind of mentioning that too. So I was like, I guess you don't think about it. I guess when you're professionals, only like me being a fan of you guys before I ever met y'all, listening is like, well, you don't realize, they're like you too in ways, and then they emulate people that they grew up listening to and following and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just cool, super cool to hear all that.
I was doing a game. I was doing a baseball game at Hayes. It was Hayes and Lake Travis a couple of years ago. And one of the Hayes guys, I think he was a booster president or something. He sat at the table with me while I was doing it. And my baseball broadcaster, I mean, Craig Way is a huge inspiration to me. And a lot of things I do, I pattern after what Craig does, because Craig has given me invaluable advice and play-by-play. And so I'm doing this game, and I get done, and the guy says, "Well, who the hell do you think you are, Craig Way?" And I said, "I know you mean that in a very smart ass way, but thank you for just saying his name with mine." So however you meant it, thank you.
Exactly. All right, guys. But like I said, I surely appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking time. And like I said, thank you, Rodney, for recording this. And we'll get it on our YouTube channel, or I'll try to. If I can figure out how to do it, I'm going to have to get you, maybe be texting you, get you kind of maybe to help me with that. But if I can't figure it out on my own, I won't bother you otherwise. So,
and I want to say before we go, Eric, when you talk about stuff like that, the guy that's on this interview with us, dude, he can run a radio station with one hand. I mean every aspect of it.
I'm going to the wrong place.
Let's not go that far, but I appreciate it.
The man. I tell you, it's like all these people that think they're wizards. No, that's the guy right there.
All right. Well, again, that's Stu Myrick with his Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. And of course, like he said earlier, you can find it all over social media, and then of course just check him out. He's always keeping it posted. I know I keep up with it, so I know, like I said, me being a big wrestling fan. And then also Rodney, on, as he mentioned, Texas Sports Unfiltered, 10 to 11, Monday through Friday. He's on with Adam Wagner. So, and I did have one more question, Rodney, before I let you go. Kind of, can you talk about how did Texas Sports Unfiltered come back? Brad Kellner, was there at the Horn. Of course, he went to Houston, then he came back and kind of started that up. So, kind of, how did all that fall into place, and then to where what you're doing today?
That was really kind of a situation to where it became pretty evident that Brad or BK moved on. He took that great job at ESPN Houston and was a part there of the afternoon show, and they were just extremely good at what they did. But it became pretty apparent here that there was a little trouble with the KTXX, with the Horn, and at whatever point BK decided he wanted to come back, and I think it was something where he knew that was going to happen, and I really applaud him as the operator of it, and as a friend, because I mean, you really look at it, and it's on paper, it's like that's a huge step backwards. I mean, you're going from the number 3 market in the country in Houston on sports radio to build this, and he's done a really good job, and he's pulled all of we cast-offs over. So he's saved a lot of careers and actually given guys like me an opportunity. So it's really cool. He's a good dude, and I think that and it's going to continue to grow. There are lots of things that are going to be added and so forth. So
and I'm a big fan. Like I said, we seem to be we're like me, a semi-professional, y'all fully professionals, and then we're also fans of each other too. So I mean, it's just like I said, super cool to see. So guys, again, thank y'all for taking time. I appreciate it. I got to head on down, do the rest of these interviews with these Watermelon Thump Queen candidates. But I truly appreciate it. Rodney, do I need to stop this myself, or
Yeah, I guess maybe see if you can stop it, and we'll see if it plays it on your machine.
All right, guys. Well, thank y'all. Appreciate it, and we'll catch y'all down the road.
Right
Sounds
on.
good. Bye bye.
Yes, sir.
See you later.
All righty.